All right. Thank you so much. Hello, everybody. It's another beautiful Wednesday afternoon, and you are joining myself and the Michael Stores team, and of course, Faber-Castell USA. My name is Leibella Ralston, and I'm so glad and so happy that you're here joining with us. So it's nice to see some familiar names popping up. Hello, Mary. Hi, Emma. Hi, Christy. Hello, Angela. Hello, everybody. So today's class, we are going to be doing some brush lettering. And I would like to say this first because, you know, I've been doing this classes for a long time, and I feel like it's a personal, okay, it's a personal thing. I feel like when we're doing brush lettering, it's not as rewarding like when we're drawing or doodling something fun or using the gelatos because it's just an instant gratification. But brush lettering, hand lettering, in general, it's my passion. I love it. It's the first type of art that I learned how to do. And I know that it might not be as, like what I said, instant gratification, because brush lettering, hand lettering, and art really does take a lot of time. You need to spend a lot of time to practice and all that. But on the other hand, the more we do these classes, the more you attend these classes, the more you do these classes with us, the more you get familiarized, you'll get comfortable, using your tools. And I think that alone is very important. Learning how to use your tools, your brush pens, your paints, whatever medium it is that you are learning. So anyways, with that being said, I still hope that you get excited because we're going to be doing some trick or treat lettering, and it's going to be fun because it's perfect for Halloween. I love Halloween. Okay, I love the candies. I love Halloween too. My kids are now getting older. I don't think they're going to do trick or treat this year, but I'm begging them to still do because it's so fun. And also, I grew up in the Philippines. So in the Philippines, it's time to remember our loved ones, during the All Souls Day, which is the 1st of November. But anyway, so today we'll be doing some brush lettering, and I will be using some of my favorite supplies from Faber-Castell USA. If you have any questions in the middle of the class, I will be able to read some of your chat messages, and also Miss Jennifer from Faber-Castell is here to also help me moderate some of your questions. All right, so I hope that you're ready. Let's get started. Okay, so for this class, I have my pencil, and this time I grabbed my 4B pencil because I know it's really hard to see sketching in the camera. I also pulled out some Faber-Castell PITT artist pens, and then the Faber-Castell, the Albrecht Durer watercolor markers. Let's just talk a little bit about these two markers in here. Let me grab here so I can zoom in just a little bit. All right, so these two markers over here, they are very different. Not just the sizes, but they're very different. The PITT artist pens, these are water-based India ink. They are waterproof once they dry. These Albrecht Dürer watercolor markers, these are high quality watercolor markers, very rich, high pigmentation, and also high light fastness for both of these markers. Now, this one, like what I said, it's watercolor. So every single time that the water touches this, it will continue to blend. Now, these ones, once they're dry, they're going to be water resistant. All right, so that's very important to understand. The Albrecht Dürer watercolor markers, they have dual tips. So they have a brush and a bullet tip on the other end as well. But today we'll be focusing on, I don't know, we can use both, honestly, because what I'm going to teach you today is kind of like fake it until you make it, because we'll be doing some brush lettering, but we're not going to stress out too much when it comes to the thin and the thick lines, because in brush lettering, what we're doing is we're trying to mimic or copy the old calligraphy style look. Brush lettering is just another branch of hand lettering. I know sometimes it gets confusing because we thought that brush lettering is just one category in its own. Basically, it's just a branch of hand lettering. Hand lettering could mean many different things. Hand lettering is the art of drawing your letters. And that's what we're going to do today. We're going to draw our letters. All right, so I'm using an Artist Loft watercolor pad. This is brand new. I'm going to use it today with all of you guys. All right, here we go. This one has 140 pound or 300 GSM. This is a letter size pad here, so it's really big. I love it. I love big sizes, but sometimes they can get overwhelming also, you know, when you have a big size paper like this, it's like a big white, big white page looking at you. All right, I'm going to adjust my microphone so I can kind of like move here. Bear with me just a little bit. All right, so before we proceed, I'm going to say hi to everyone. Hello, Emma. Hello, Christy. Hello, Tina. Hi, Barbara. Hello, everybody. Okay, so like what I said, trick or treat, and I want to fill the space in. Now, if you have a much smaller sizes, of course, the size of your letters will be different from the size of mine, but they're really going to be the same because we're going to fill this space right here. So we want to focus on trick, and then the word or is I want to make it print. So the word trick and the word treat, I want it both in a script style of lettering. Now, we also provided you with some printables that you can use. You can trace over that if you'd like, but really this is so easy. I mean, right? I'm going to go zoom in so we can see. If you don't want to copy the way I have drawn, I will draw my letters today. That's perfectly fine. You can draw your letter T, how you've been drawing it or writing it. I think that is one thing that's so important, is because sometimes we try to copy so much that the brush lettering is difficult already, but then trying to copy someone's style on top of that, you know, adds more difficulty in the process. So I hope that that makes sense. All right, so this one I'm looking at, I'm not even going to make it look a script for my letter T, but the rest of the letters, I want to make sure that I write it in script. So I just write my letter R. Just like that. Oh no. Okay, why are we having trouble with the, let's see. Just make sure my settings are okay. And then I, C, and then for the K, I think I'm gonna make this kind of look like a print also, a small. So that's my trick. Hello, Elsie. Make sure that I change the settings. Doesn't seem like it's blurry on my end, right? So that's the word trick. And then I'm going to write the word treat first. Same style with the letter T. Make sure that same style with my letter R as well. E, A, and this one, T. So I want to make sure I have enough space in the middle for the word or. Right now, I am struggling because I don't know where my eraser is. All right. Make sure you have eraser close to you. Don't be like me. I'll write the word or in a print. And this is why it's very important to use, look at that, a pencil, because if I used a marker right away, I won't be able to erase this part right here because they're going to be permanent. But since it's pencil, it's just like that. There. All right, so do you guys have that? I am scrambling to find an eraser. I'll just use this eraser that I have. Okay, so when we want to erase it, we don't want to fully erase it completely. Okay, I usually have my kneadable eraser on my desk. I don't know where it's at. Maybe I dropped it somewhere. I have no idea. But you want to make sure that you just erase just a little bit and leave the perfect silhouette guide so you know exactly where your placement. And I think that's the most important to me is the placement and the spacing of each letter, like that. Go. And that's why I love my kneadable eraser, guys, because it doesn't give me any of these eraser suds. But I do have my desk vacuum though. So I'll be able to clean it. So I'm just trying to erase it, but not erase it too much also. So, and I also used a 4B pencil. That's why it's more black than usual. All right. And I'll use my, look at this. So neat. I love it. Okay, so now if there's okay, bandwidth issue. Oh no, why are we having some Zoom issues today? Oh no, because everything on my end is very clear and very sharp. So I'm not sure what's going on. But right now it's really blurry because you can't see my letters. Right, so parts of it are still very dark. So I'm still gonna go over it second time. Make sure I erase that. All right, thanks guys for sharing that some of us are really fine on our end. I hope you guys figure out that bandwidth issue because it's going to be hard if it's blurry. Okay, now it's really blurry because my letters are not here anymore. But see, I just erased just as much as I can, but leaving enough guide for me to add my markers. Now for this next step, I am going to use my Faber-Castell Cold Gray. Now I asked for 2 colors for the PITT artist. It's all on the supply list. If you guys don't have it, if you have a very, very light blue, grab those. Okay, and we're gonna go a little bit slow so we can let some, others to close their windows first and then come back in so they can catch up with us. But I'm gonna go look for a light blue to show you. You can also use the lilac color. So we have light yellow glaze. Then you can also use the pale pink. Okay, so depends on the colors that you're going to use. I want to use the pale pink for my pink colors. So we can, for the middle purple pink, that will be great. The lilac 239 for the purple one. And maybe use the light yellow or the cold gray to use for the orange. Either one of those will work. But honestly, if you have a really light gray PITT artist, it's going to be perfect. I love using it to really write down my first layer of my letters because it does really help. Because when it comes to brush lettering, you're thinking about a whole lot of things, your pressure, the way you hold your pens, because it's all about the thick and thin lines. And if you want to learn about the brush lettering, of course, we have so many classes that really, we talked about the details step by step on how to do the brush lettering, but I want to show you real quick while we're waiting for the others what I'm talking about. It's all about the thin and the thick, and how to accomplish that is through this. So let's grab a marker pad. Before we actually write down the words trick or treat, let's go over this first, our thick and thin lines. So this is kind of like a review. I know that I've seen so many beautiful names here that has been attending our classes. So I know you guys have been practicing, or at least I hope so. I hope you've been practicing with your brush lettering. All right. So let's grab a darker color so everyone can see. I'm going to grab the orange in here. So when we talk about brush lettering, the thin and the thick, every single time that you would do an upstroke or a motion that is away from you, okay, so an upstroke is when you write away from your body. So every time you would go up, you would ease up on your pressure and you would use the tip of your brush pen. And this is for people like me out there. I write so heavily that when it comes to my upstroke, I struggle. And even up till now, I have to be really mindful when I'm doing my upstroke, or every time I would do my thin letters. So every time I would go up, I'd use the tip of the marker and go really light on the pressure. And then every time I'd go right towards me, or this is my downstroke, I would bend my brush pen a little bit and really apply some pressure to really get those beautiful thick strokes. So it's all about those two things: up, light pressure, down, heavy pressure. All right. Okay. So I'll try to write the word trick or treat over here so you guys can see. Pressure. Look how thick that is. I'm going to go zoom in so we can see, you guys can see the brush pen in action, right? And then every time you do a horizontal line, you'd also use a light pressure. That. See this, hold on. Upstroke, that means light and using the tip of the brush pen. Horizontal, tip and light. Now going down is I'm going to apply pressure like that. See how thick and thin that is? I go up, then I go down, thick, ease up over here, and use the tip to go light. That. Pressure, ease up, pressure, and then down again, and then up. So that's word trick. Now it's so hard sometimes when I try to go really slow. I mean, I'm noticing that my letters look so wonky. Now, because I've been doing this for a very long time, so I don't have to think about that. Okay, I have to go light, I have to go down. This is what you called some muscle memory. And the more you do this, and that's why I said, the more you do letterings, whether you're a beginner, whether you're intermediate, whether you're a pro at this, and I have been doing this for a long time. If I don't practice my brush lettering for days and weeks, when I get to do it again, I'm almost to a point where I'm starting all over. Not really, but you know what I mean? It's kind of like you lose that muscle memory and you're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. My thin are not thin enough. My thick are not thick enough. I hope that makes sense. All right. So here we go. Oops. Overhead. So I'll write it down again. You can play around with your letter T. You can do this instead. This is where, if you've been doing this for a long time, you're going to try and find your own style. So the more you practice, you'll put character in your letters. You want to do this, instead of just one single crossbar. You kind of play around and do a wavy line for your letter T. Oh, Mary, that's so sweet. Okay, I hope not the voice that I had last week. For some reason, we were having so much technical issues lately with Zoom, but my voice, I don't know if it was last week's class, but my voice like, hello, everybody. My name is Bella Ralston. I was watching the replay and I'm like, what happened to my voice? Okay. So, all right, now that we have the trick or treat, I'm going to do, what did we do in the, hold on, I'm trying to find it. Let's see if I can find, I think we did a purple first, but we can play around with it. So we'll do pink, orange for the word or, and treat, we'll do a purple in there. Okay. So like what I said, I'll use a pale pink for my pink one. Now I'm trying to find my eraser, make sure I really don't have, because this is pink and it's might not be dark enough to cover all these this pencil marks. So I want to just go over it again, just to make sure. But I can still see it though, but the camera might not pick it up anymore because it's really, really light. All right, here we go. And then I'm going to try and zoom in just a little bit so you can see. Now, because we are going to letter on top of the PITT artist, because remember, the PITT artist uses a water-based India ink, which is going to be waterproof once it's dry. The first colors that we're going to apply, it will serve as our guide. So here we can actually not worry too much if we're getting a thick enough stroke, because we can go over it again and make sure that it's good. All right. So this is my trick for a beautiful blend, because if I use the Albrecht Durer already, sometimes I have strokes that are not as thick as I would like them to be, or as thin as I would like them to be. But with this one, we'll have a perfect guide, and then we'll put our watercolor markers, the Albrecht Durer, on top of it. Then we can play around with the strokes. So just remember, thick going down, and don't be scared to put pressure in your pens, because they're supposed to bend to give you that thicker strokes. And that's the beauty of using a brush pen. So I'm going to go over the strokes so I can see them much better. So all my thick strokes. So sometimes you have to mentally retrace it, the way you've written down the way you've drawn your letters. So this one, I went down. So this one's supposed to be really thick here. Okay. Just make sure that it's still going to be uniform. You're thin and thick. There is such a thing where too thin and then too thick, and you're going to see it. You're going to be the judge if you feel like they are uniform enough. Now I'm going to add the dot for my letter I. It's really hard to see. This is a very, very light color. It's pale pink. All right. So I'm going to do my yellow, or just use my gray. It doesn't matter. I'll just erase some parts of it. That 4B pencil, it is black. That graphite. All right. Oops. So this one going down, I'll go thick like that. And then I'll just use the tip of my marker and go really light on pressure and taking my time. And that's another thing. Take your time when you're doing this. Don't feel like you're in a rush. And every time I am in a rush and I'm trying to do any type of hand lettering, I kid you not, it ends up being a disaster. So I have learned that really being mindful and taking my time does make a big difference. All right, I'll stay right there. Go over here. Let's see. And now I'll do the word treat, and I'll use my lilac color in here. This is such a pretty, pretty color. All right. And also notice how I'm holding my pen. I'm not writing like this. This is definitely a big, big no-no when you're doing any types of hand lettering. Now, when you write a document, like this, it's okay. But when you're doing hand lettering, you're drawing, you're coloring, it's really, this is a preferred, the way you hold your pen. This is so important because you'll be able to use the tip and switch a little bit to be able to create a much thicker strokes. So 45-degree angled from the paper over here, and let your marker or your pen rest here in this cave of your hand, and make sure that this is stable and that you have enough control. Look at this. This is where my wrist, this is doing all the motions. I'm not doing this unless, because this is sometimes when you're using a much bigger or trying to draw or trying to create a much larger, but that's when you move it. But usually this is where the movement is coming from, this wrist area right here. So let me put that up. And so notice it, I'm pressing on it and creating that thicker stroke. See? Now I want this to be uniform with that letter T on top. So I'm doing my crossbar, just very simple, just like that. Okay, now going light and using the tip of the marker up, pressing and adding pressure. Notice that here, I added some pressure here, and then I eased up and used the tip. Right, I'm going to stop there and press the marker, press on again, add some pressure, go ease up and use the tip. If I do this, I'll show you. If the way I would hold my marker is like this, look at how my thick strokes are going to look. Even though I am applying really heavy pressure here, but this is how the strokes are going to look. And here, if I'm holding it correctly and I'll press on it, I get a much, much, much better, thicker strokes. I always do that. Okay, let's try that again. This position, that's what I get. If I press on it, look at that. Your brush pen will bounce back. So if I pressed it and if I added some pressure in here and you notice your brush tip a little bit is bended, I always try to move around. Look at my hand. I'm constantly doing this with my brush pens. It's also, you get a fresher ink on the other side. So if I did this, I go up. Automatically, I do switch a little bit, kind of like here. I switch a little bit, and then I use the other side of that brush pen, and I switch again, just a little bit, twist it, and then use the other side of the brush pen again. I hope that makes sense. But I think it's something that's not being covered a whole lot, is that switching and, sides of the brush pen. Tip, body. So thin, thick. All right. Here we go. Moving forward, letter E, using the tip and putting pressure. Okay. And that again. Right. I think it's definitely much, much harder to do larger letters. That's why it's perfect to do it this way. Use the PITT artist pens first to really establish your placement, the size, the width of your strokes, and all that. All right. Pretty. Okay. Now it's time to use our Albrecht Durer markers in here. So here, hold on one second. Okay. So for the word trick, I'm going to use my, I think, orange. Yep. And to add some, I can probably do some middle purple pink as well. So we can have a deeper orange. If you want to create a gradient here, we can use the cadmium yellow first, and we can try that. I'll try it with the cadmium yellow first and then the orange glaze. So if you have a yellow and an orange, or if you have a yellow and a red, that would be much, much better because you'll get a darker orange in there. So you'll get a different value, a deeper value of orange. But I'm going to go over it now. See, this one, I don't have to worry about my thin and thick anymore because we've done that in the beginning. We've already done that. So now I'm just going to add there my letters. I want to add, I think I'm going to use, instead of the orange glaze, I'm going to use my middle purple pink so we can create a deep orange in here. And this time I want to create a gradient. So I'm just going to add it first. A little goes a long way. So if you have the middle purple pink, if you have a reddish color, this one, use it here on top of your cadmium yellow. And then now we're going to use some water. We're going to need water to blend these. I am using a Princeton, the Velvet Touch, the round number 2. You can also use a water brush, whichever you prefer. For this type of lettering, I love using a much thinner brush tip because I have a better control with the water. I'll have my paper towel on the side here, just in case. Sometimes, you know, that's the tricky part of using water, is that sometimes you get too much water and then you end up with a pool in there, and that's always no fun. All right, hold on one second. Okay, here we go. I have my water. Put that on the side. Make sure that I blend. Would you like me to zoom in just a little bit more? Let's zoom in just a little bit so we can really see clearly. See how little, very, very little, because it's much easier to add. So that we just start with very small amount and we start blending so we can see how much we want. And I want to have that gradient from the yellow. So I still want the yellow in here, but I'm going to move this. Look how we have this beautiful orange color now. Put it there. And if you didn't erase enough of your pencil, you will definitely see it, because I can see parts of mine, but you know what? It's okay. I'm okay. I think I'm okay. All right. One good thing about these markers also is that if you have any sleek surface, a plastic, you know, like in my case, my mat here is a silicone mat. You can use a silicone mat and like this, pick up some of these colors. So it's like you have your own palette, watercolor palette in there. So if you want to add a little bit more color, you can do so while it's still wet. Grab some of those. And I'm really concentrating just at the bottom part of my letter here. I want to leave everything on top more yellow. Clean my brush. Now it's just clean water in here. I want to go blend everything. Slowly blending it. Just take your time. Just like that. All right. I'm going to go clean this up. I wanted to do that so you guys can see. Okay. Okay, so let's keep adding yellow first. I'm going to do all the yellow first so that all we got to do is now just add the middle purple pink to create the orange. So now I'm just following what we created. I don't have to worry about the thin and thick. How fun is that? Right? Okay. I didn't erase my pencils enough. And it's now slowly bothering me. Okay, I will get over it. I promise. Again, a little goes a long way. These are just so rich in pigment. It's amazing. And I like to do one letter at a time, just so I can really quickly move the pigments around instead of it staining the paper, because the results will really depend on the type of paper that you're using. But trust me, these are the best watercolor markers out there, because I have tried many different ones and they always stain. And after I apply it, I am not able to blend it and move it around. And it just makes me super frustrated. These ones, once the water touched these pigments, oh man, you can just move it and blend it. But I don't want to take my chances right now because I'm using a different watercolor markers. Haven't used it a lot. So just to make sure, we'll be patient and blend one letter at a time and apply these middle purple one letter at a time. All right. And see, that's why I love the number 2 round brush, because look how thin that is. And so I can really get into the smaller areas and just being careful. And also it doesn't hold too much water, but it holds enough that I'm able to really move and blend the colors. There we go. Apply just a little in there. Go up like that. Now here, I want to be careful. Just really move. Now, if you feel like the pigments are not moving anymore, the colors are not blending well enough, that might mean that you don't have enough water in your brush. So make sure to kind of dip as you go along. I like to say dip and dab, because sometimes I have too much water. So I always dab it in the paper towel also, especially if I'm using a much larger round brush like a number 4 or a number 6. But the number 2, they stay pretty consistent with their water hold. So add it in here in the bottom. Can you believe it's already 5:40? Time flies when you're having fun. Like that. Do we have any friends from New Orleans today? because we are heading your way. Go. We're going on a family trip. Do you guys have any fun plans for the Halloween? Clean my brush. Do this. Just clean it. It really is, when it comes to watercolor, I always say this every time I do a class, I think it's my favorite because it's the most forgiving, but ironic part is also, it's also one of the trickiest because, you know, you can get inconsistent results just depending on the materials you're using. You know, watercolors doesn't mean watercolors. Depends on what watercolors, especially watercolor markers. The results may frustrate you in the end because like it's not blending enough, or the brush that you're using, or the paper that you're using. There are so many variables in there involved. It's like, okay, so we have the word trick. Oh my gosh. Simone, I'm so happy for you. It's very special Halloween indeed. That is so special. That's going to be so fun. Oh, yes. Great city. We love NOLA. I love it there in New Orleans. I love jazz. You know, I'm a musician, so I really love, and just the spirit and the energy of that place is just, I love it. Okay. So where is my purple? I know, how wonderful. That's so special. All right. So since here, I am going to do, if we concentrated at the bottom side, I think I want to concentrate on the bottom here as well. So we kind of like all looking the same. We're going to go concentrate there. And this one is going to be much easy because remember we used the lilac for the word treat. And so here, all we got to do is blend this one. And this is going to create just that perfect gradient. And this is what I'm talking about, this pool of water. Look how much water there is. So I'm going to dab my brush in a paper towel, pick up some of that water, dab it again in the paper towel to get some of those water out. Okay. And then we'll start blending. Hi, Simone. Thank you so much for his service and yours. All right. And then you can also pick up some of the colors directly from the brush, you guys, like that. And like what I always say, don't be afraid to really play with your tools. That is one of the best things you can do, is fail. You know, play around, fail, see if something works. That didn't work. I'm like, okay, let's move on to the next, you know, but I think it's important to kind of like in dating, you get to know each other first. So I'll put that in the bottom. With this one, since we only have one color really that we're blending in here, which is our purple violet, I'm not trying to be careful with the amount of pigments I use because we actually need a bit more color in here. But the goal in here is to keep everything at the bottom a darker value. And so we blend it up just like this. And with the water, it automatically makes it much lighter, of course. So Just trying to fix some of my strokes, the width of my strokes. Some are too small. That's my puppy, if you heard him sneezing. So I'm just picking up some of those pigments directly from the pen. All right. Oops. Just like that. There we go. Just be careful with your water, not end up with a pool in there because it's going to be hard. But like what we did earlier, just make sure to clean your brush, dab it in the paper towel as you go along. And here I'm not being super careful, so I'm having some extra strokes. So just going to be careful. Here we go. Sometimes I get excited, you know? All right. And right now, what I'm trying to do is I don't want any of these harsh staining of the marker. So I'm just really diluting it with water. Make sure that it's really blended. So the gradient is much smoother, softer, instead of having a sharp line where the marker ended. With this one, with just extra patience of blending, you will get that extra smooth blend. Here we go. All right. Oops. I feel like here it's not as smooth as I would like. The thinner lines are much, much harder, of course. So just spend extra time in there and that thinner part of your letter. So here, while it's still wet, I'm going to try and really go not so fast, but with a little speed so we can blend it smooth instead of letting it dry and then try to blend everything again. So the key is while it's still wet, while the pigments are still wet, try to work extra fast but careful. So that will give you a much, much, much smoother blend. Like that. Okay. And I think for the word or, I think I want to make that solid pink, looking at it right now. And then when it comes to lettering, you want to play with your embellishments. I call them embellishments is because your decorations or embellishments in your page, that's what makes it fun. It really completes the whole look. So of course, for the trick or treat, we want something like bats, spiders, you know, you want to add cobwebs, I mean, things that represent the theme. And of course, if we're talking about love, then you add hearts, you know, if you're doing some galaxy theme, then anything that will go with the quote or the phrase that you've just did. So here for the trick or treat, we want to add some Halloween theme in here. So we'll add some clouds and I will use my PITT artist pen for that. And I'll use the black one, black PITT artist. Now see, I didn't move quick enough. So I have a not so clean gradient in there. So I'm just going over it with a wet brush and going over that area and just adding a bit more color and blending. And doing this way also, instead of putting it directly into your page or to your paper, because the moment that you put in you apply this marker there again, you get a much concentrated amount of pigment. So by doing this and just picking up from the marker, you get just a little bit, just enough, just that perfect addition that you need. And of course, you can just keep going back to it and add a bit more at a time. Right here, so just a little bit here. Move that. Next week, we are going to be playing with my favorite gelatos. And we're going to create some DIY, just home decor. So all of those details are available at michaels.com, classes and events. I love it. All right. Oh, Mary, that's so cute. Yes, because they're so cute clouds. They're so tiny and they're like everywhere. I can really see popcorns. Good imagination. Well, let's just think of them as popcorn also. Okay, so for the word or, we can choose to, I'm thinking, you guys. I think how about we do some popcorn in here, a cloud, but the T, look at the T in my letter R, it's just too close that I don't think it's going to work. Now, if I move the or just a little bit here earlier, we could have made a shape that would make the word or pop a bit more than usual, but we can add some embellishment here and we'll make it pop like little rays and all that just to add more attention to that word. I'll show you in a bit. I'm just writing the word or. And this time, because this is much smaller, I feel like I have a much better control if I use the bullet tip or the other end of the marker. So I'm just adding some extra width and then filling it in. See that? Just like that. All right. Now, my problem with this, when I'm like trying to fill in and add extra width in there, sometimes my problem is knowing when to stop. It's like, okay, Lay, all right, that's good. That's good. Calm down. All right. So for the popcorns, Mary's granddaughter said it, they look like popcorn. We can, I'm going to use my PITT Artist in here, my PITT Artist pen in black and in the 1.5 tip. Now, the black PITT Artist pens comes in many different tips. Oh my gosh, you can choose which one is your favorite. But today, I love the super fine, which is the letter S. I always, try to say this one because I love it so much. But I can use a 1.5 too, so that I can cover a much larger space at a time. And just for the sake of it, I think I'm going to use my heat gun and just go over this real quick because I always end up with some smearing and I don't want to ruin this because this really turned out super pretty. It's also perforated, so you can take this page out. You can choose to hang it on the wall. Okay. Just want to make sure. Right. So I'll use the 1.5 and I'll just start adding some clouds everywhere. We're going to fill in some space, but the focus is, of course, is going to be our lettering. So play around with the shape of your half circles when you're doing some clouds, just like that. And I am intentionally trying not to be overly careful because I want a little bit of that white where the white part of the paper, the part of the paper is showing up. So you have kind of bit of that scratchy. There's a bit of that highlights from the white page. I think it adds character to it. Now I can't stop thinking of popcorn. So I'll do the same thing here. This definitely adds character to it, but if you want a much smoother blend, then by all means, make sure to really cover the whole shape. But I like that. See, some of the whites are peeking through. I really like that look. I'll have some in here. Make sure to spread them around the page, not too big, because you want it to be an addition instead of a distraction from our main subject, which is the lettering, right? I have some here, just that. I have a little bit here. Now we can add some stars in here. I also pulled out some of my gold PITT Artist pens. You can do that, or you can just use the same colors that we have here now. Maybe use some purple and create some stars. Just like that. Really like it. Okay, so for the stars, I think I'm going to use a super fine just so I can make sure that I get really small in here. So I'll add some stars. I'm not going to overthink this one. I'm just making stars. And we often do that. Just like that. Make sure you play around with the size. So have some stars. Some stars would be larger than the others. Play around with the direction. If you have to move your paper around just a little bit, tilt it and move it around just so you can change the orientation of some of your stars. But really, it's the stars. It's super hard to tell. Orientation. Okay, and then I think I'm gonna add some small dots in here, just all over the place. But look at this, just with the addition of just a little bit of that embellishments in here, really added an extra charm to this lettering page. Look at that. Add a little bit here, smaller, add some smaller ones. Like that. And I'll use my gold. If you don't have the gold, it's okay. You can use your yellow to add some dots. So I'm adding some circles in here. I'm just spreading them all over the page, just like that. Like this. Spread out. And then using the middle purple pink, I'll use the bullet tip. And this one will give me that perfect dot. Just put in some pressure. This bullet tip will give me that perfect small dot, what I need. Just like that. Now we can choose to add some bats. Maybe we can add some spiders. I'll put it here. I'm concentrating just on the outside part and not bother the inside of my letter, my quote. So all my embellishments are on just the outside. Sorry, excuse me. Add a little bit here. Do some wiggly lines. So that shows the cobwebs is dangling. Instead of just one straight line, I think that wiggly line adds some character as well. But look at what we created today. So Stephanie said she added some bats, some spider webs attached to her letters. That's so perfect. I would love to see them. If you guys created with us today, make sure to please tag us. Use the hashtag Make It With Michaels and follow Michael's stores. And of course, please do show some love Follow us, Faber-Castell USA, and use the hashtag Faber-Castell every time you would create with your favorite Faber-Castell supplies. Oh my goodness, you guys, we actually finished on time, but I really had so much fun with all of you. As always, we cannot thank you enough for spending some time with us. And thank you for always showing up. It means a lot to me. It means a lot to us. And it's important that we continue to just practice. If you're not as happy as you would like in this class, we'll try again next week, right? So because that's how it is. We just keep practicing, and we just continue to be kind to ourselves and promise not to compare ourselves to others. I hope you guys have a fabulous evening. Enjoy the rest of your week and have a great weekend. I thank you all. Until next time, stay creative and stay happy. Thank you, everyone. Bye.